Mm. And have you got any funny stories for us or embarrassing moments? I know you're the amazing professional, but I'm sure there's a few in there you could let us in on.
Then I always remember at Gatton Show, there was a little 11-year-old boy and he was leading this beautiful, big, magnificent um, Simmental bull. And the results for the cattle hadn't come down the ring. I thought, well, what do I do now? So I had to improvise. Vicky was standing behind me out in the horse ring. She said, have a look behind you. And I looked around and here was the grand parade starting with cattle and no information. So I went over and walked alongside this young boy and I said to him, what's the name of your bull and what's your name? And he told me. And the bull had this incredibly long name. And I said, why don't you just shorten the name up and call him after me and call him Angus? He said, he's a better bloody producer than you are. So I saw a lady up at Darwin Royal Show and she was a very broad-minded lady. She was in the lead line class for the children. And she looked quite young and she told me she had 6 children. And I said, all right. I said, so you have one of your children in this event? She said, yes, right over there, the guy with the check shirt, that's my husband. And the one just in front of me here, that's my boyfriend. And I said, would you like to repeat that and tell those people around here the story again, please? So it was quite amazing. But again, with a politically correct world today, you have to be very, very careful about how you handle situations like that. But you know, at Rockhampton, probably the saddest thing I saw one day was a big bull and in fact, he was a big Solaire bull. He weighed about 1,200 kgs, and it was People's Day. And something went wrong with the brain. There was a blood clot or a blood vessel broke, and he threw his head around like that. He broke the chain around his neck. He broke the lead rein around his neck, and that bull took off. Unknown to me, I could hear all the screaming outside around the arena. And thank goodness the gate was open into the ring at the time. And he took out, I think it was about 9 or 12 people. Imagine women, you know, mums with prams. And anyway, he came into the show. They came into the show ring, and it was like, for me, it was ring around the rosy or whatever it was. That old, because he chased me around the little marquees that were in centre ring. And it was a frightening experience, but I always take my hat off to the cowboys because they're having a radio that night, and they came in. There was about 20 of them jumped on his bull, pulled him down, and you know, they brought in a horse float and took him away. But look, just the people, I suppose. It's just the people we've had the pleasure of working with. We had a gentleman in the light towers down at the old Sydney Royal Showgrounds, and he'd been diagnosed with cancer, and no one knew. And he climbed up the light tower with a bottle of scotch, and it became a real full-time rescue for the fire to come in and get him down out of that light tower. When we found out about it, you know, no one knew he was so well. So but probably Lloyd Robinson's another one with the Holden Precision Driving Team. He was 2 of the cars, 2 of the utes. One of them didn't put the handbrake on, so they had a head-on collision. And Angus was sitting in the broadcast box, and I suppose it was a highlight of the people's night because I said, "Oh, sugar." It wasn't sugar either. That wasn't supposed to happen. But and and everyone roared laughing. So, look, there's been many great memories, and but above all, I suppose being prepared, hopefully, with mentally. When I went down to get, I forget what year it was. I think it was 94, 90, maybe 94, 97. When I was driving down to Brisbane, and I did a phantom call of a parachuters coming to the ring. We had 27 parachuters that year. I did a phantom call driving down to Brisbane for some unknown reason in case there was an accident. And that particular year, as the 27 parachuters came into the ring at Brisbane Ekka, an auntie and her nephew collided in the air, and they came into the ground. Probably they fell in over. I forget. They were above the heights of the power poles, and they just dropped in like a sack of spuds. And we had a full house that night with about 20,000 people waiting for all the entertainment. Well, that was held up for an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half, and that's when you really learn to do your job, because Ronnie Edger and I had to ad-lib for an hour and 10 minutes and we had Rusty Frame, who was the greatest entertainer I've ever worked with. So Rusty had a bull, and he had a mule, and he had a Clydesdale. And we utilised all those just to try to entertain the people and keep their minds off the emergency services dealing with these people. But so I'm just saying, there's many things that I suppose you try and train yourself to do, and but there's wonderful, there's wonderful things that happen as well. And I remember a little touring show one year. I was sponsored by a motor car company, Peugeot, and every 7,000 to 8,000 Ks they provided me with a new car. And they went over to Vicky behind my back while I was out announcing that night, and we had to demolish a monster trucks, jumping cars. And unknown to me, they went and got this car, brand new Peugeot, and they put it the last one in the line. Like I had a heart attack. I'll tell you, it's the first time I couldn't talk. I couldn't know. But there's so many memories. There really is, and all great memories too. And announcing the World Cup show jumping events was very special to me. Probably the highlight. And I've never been able to do it without the show movement, the show support, was announcing at the Beef Expos, the Australian Beef Expos in Rockhampton for 30 years. That was probably the highlight for me, without a doubt, as well as being invited to not only all the small shows, but the Royal Shows. So, there's a lot ahead for young people, a lot of challenges ahead for young people. But above all, I say to them, is an example, Jen. When we go to the big Royal Shows now, they don't give you a list of where people are from. So what you do, you get an initial, you get the initials, or you get the name of the bull or the name of the female. You get the initials of people, and a lot of young guys and girls announcing today have to realise that unless they have the prefix of that stud, because they don't give you what they came from Orange, they don't tell you anymore they came from Blame You because of this Privacy Act, and that is so sad. I think that's ridiculous myself, and I say it publicly wherever I go. It's absolute stupidity for stud beef cattle exhibitors or people showing horses, if they're into the breeding, not be able to be recognised from where they come from. It's only particularly for the general public, because the general public, on average, sit around a showground. I used to take my coat off, my tie off, and go around and sit with them around Brisbane Ekka. 17 minutes is the average, worked out that the mum and kids came and sat around the show ring. And so working those things out, I suppose, to your own benefit is so important. But above all, that the challenge for young people today of finding out where people are from to make it interesting for people, and say it's 5 generations, 4 generations, or 3 generations, make it personal, because it's so important to have that personal touch. That's what I believe anyway.
And then when you're interviewing the likes of farmers and different people who don't often like to talk, I guess having those personal stories to make you more relatable to them helps open them up as well, rather than them just giving you a couple of word answers.
Oh, very much. And you have a reverse role. It's like you interviewing myself this morning, and I'm supposed to be the expert and give you the right advice. And the thing I admire about what you've just done for me this morning in this interview is the fact you've listened. And that's what you have to do when you're interviewing people as well. When you're interviewing a person, is listen and then pick up on something they've said and expand on that. So it's a totally different role. It's complete opposite to what you do in the show ring when you pick up a microphone to do an interview. And one man in particular that I really admire and have great admiration for is Dr. Rob Wilson, AM, who I had the pleasure of working with at Perth Royal Show for many years when he was president and vice president. Because to continue on with now the Agriculture Show Association in such a big way, and particularly he's like me, he's passionate about youth and the next generation and the future. And to have someone like that organising and applying for grants and whatever, I just salute the people like Rob so much for the input that they're giving now. And also, when we talk about research, there's a prime example. His executive secretary is, you probably know, is Katie Stanley now. Katie was probably one of the best show jumping riders that we have in Australia. And, she was, and she's still vibrant. She still loves and still has that passion. I think she's still riding, in fact, and still has a horse. But, when I rang up, I said to her one day, I said, "You're not so-and-so. You weren't the young lady I used to introduce at Brisbane Ekka and so does Sydney." "Yes, I am, Angus." So you have a young lady that knows the role, that she's experienced the role of competing at shows. So And that's so important too, to have people in roles that have had that experience as well.
And well, thanks for that feedback for me. I was just going to mention something you did say earlier that I think runs through a lot of different industries, journalism, show announcing, all different things. But you mentioned you started with the small shows, and I guess people who want to pick up that microphone, the ability to go to those small shows, they might not be able to pay you. They might give you maybe your meals while you're there. It's not about the money at the beginning, is it? It's just about the experience. And those small shows, would that be your experience, that that's what set you up for your career?
Yeah, very much, Jen. And I suppose I was lucky because Vicky and I were the only full-time, and still are the only full-time showring announcers in Australia. John Nash had other business. George Hardman had other businesses. The previous guys to me, Graham Barker had his businesses as well down in Victoria. Ronnie Edgerton had businesses. Pardon me. And I think it's lovely to see that Lindsay Douglas is combining the announcing with the ability. She's just brilliant at putting packages together for people and show societies, and it's lovely to see. She'll do so well because of that, because it's all intertwined, if you know what I mean. But yes, you hit the nail on the head. I think greed is the thing that'll stop people from being invited to shows. And the other thing that stops people too, if I give a word of advice for young people announcing, is two things. And that is, number one is be aware of your music that you're playing. Now, I know a lot of people say Angus has stepped aside. Thank goodness, because all he did was play Richard Clayton music. The reason for that, and the reason why I play instrumental music, is the fact that people sitting around a showground, if they've got that boom, 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 and all the vitality of this youth in their ears, as I say, and they're talking and telling people about what's happening at the show, you've got two voices against each other. And I had a little old lady at, God bless her, at Mackay, and she walked up in front of the broadcast box one day, and my wife, Vicky, I said to her I was going to play some one of Australia's top country music singers at the time. And anyway, I had that on, and Vicky said, "You're mad, you should stick to the instrumental music." Well, I learned very quickly. This little old lady walked up, she was probably in her 70s, and she waved, and I thought she was waving to someone else, and she pointed to me, and I went across. I said, "Yes, ma'am, how can I help you?" She said, "Sonny," and it was drizzling rain, it was. She said, "Sonny," she said, "either you shut up or that glass shuts up, otherwise I'll shove this umbrella up your And I, so I was always aware after that to make sure I played instrumental music, because people want to relax and enjoy it, you know, and as I said, it's just so important to make sure you do that. And also the other advice I give them is when they're out announcing and someone, don't ever come up with the idea that you want to be the big time Charlie when a person that you know has won a ribbon or won a red ribbon, and blue for first, red for second, and tell a story about them winning the Supreme Champion hack at so-and-so, or the Supreme Champion lead at so-and-so, when that class or that championship hasn't been decided at that particular show. Because if they do that, you'll get accused of influencing the judge, and I guarantee you will never ever be invited back because it's happened. And also people get confused today with live streaming. A lot of people think that when they're doing live streaming, that's actually going out into the indoor arena or the outside, where it's not. They really need to say to people, we're doing live streaming today. What you hear me say about the champion or reserve when they won a class, make sure people out there watching are aware of the fact that this is this isn't going out live. You know, it's just so important it's not going out live. And my wife has just handed me a note here that says, young people, also listen to what the show society you're announcing at, which we spoke about, what they want, and not what you want. Do not talk about yourself. You are there for the competition and shows and competitors. So there you go.
Still passing your notes even today. And Angus, you have retired, but will we still see you around the show circuit from time to time at special events?
Well, the young gentleman I had up with me last year at Toowoomba Royal Show, Jake Smith from down at Gunnedah, he's a lovely young fellow, and he's also a great auctioneer. In fact, my son-in-law runs 3,500 head of Santa Cruz cattle. He said he heard this young fellow. He said he's one of the best I've ever heard. he's coming back this year to take my role over as chief announcer. But I had a lovely invitation by him the other day saying, Angus, look, I would love you to come back and work with me because of the fact, he said, I'd love you to sit and give me advice and help me. I said, well, I'd be delighted to come back, providing you check with the committee of the Toowoomba Royal Show to make sure they're happy, because they gave a great night of presentation, etc. for us last year. So I'm going back to Toowoomba Royal Show this year just to support Jake. And I've said to him, you're the chief announcer. I said, you can ask me what happened. I said, then it's up to you to fulfill and put that in place in whatever way you want to. I said, I'm just there to support you. So I'm looking forward to that, because hopefully I can help him in a way and encourage the young people and support young people. That's what I'd just like to do now, is any advice I can pass on to young people. And also, Bow Desert Show at the end of this year in September, God willing, they were supposed to have had their 125th show in 2020. It was cancelled due to COVID. 21 was cancelled due to COVID. They still haven't had their 125th show. And the president, Ian Harrison, it's his 25th show, and it's my 25th year of announcing. So if invited, I'll definitely go down to Bow Desert Show.
Well, fingers crossed we can start to move forward again. It's been a couple of beautiful seasons as well on the back of that dreadful drought. So hopefully shows going ahead full steam because, yeah, the last 2 years have been two to forget. So that's all for now.
Could I just say to you too,
yes,
sorry for interrupting, could I just say to the older generation of showgoers or people on the executive or show committees, just remember the shows are going to die unless you're prepared to fulfill and allow the next generation to come in and be part of your show. And I mean that sincerely, because so many people feel threatened by the next generation coming in and doing things, and the next generation get very frustrated and say, well, we'll blow that. They don't want me, so I won't go back. So it's a matter of having that combination of both, the old and the new, like anything else we do in our lives, I dare say. And but that's my advice to all those people on show society or show committees. Allow the next generation to come in. Allow the rural ambassadors to come in. You know, you've worked so hard to get them in positions where they can help. Take advantage of allowing them the freedom to move. If they come up with a new idea that they want to try, allow them to fulfill that. Just don't keep on knocking them. And most of all, you know, I just wish the 580 odd shows all the very best for the future and the years to come.
100% well said, Angus. And that's all for now here at the Show Announcers Academy. Thanks so much to my guest, Angus Lane, today, and our partners in this series, Agricultural Shows Australia, with sponsorship from the Australian Government, the Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment, as part of their Landcare Smart Farms and Capacity Building Program. We hope to see you again, and you might even see Angus at a show near you soon.